A quiet janitor, invisible to everyone, held a secret from his past. When a CEO was taken hostage, he was the last person anyone expected to step up. But what he did next, no one saw it coming. This is a story of how one ordinary man's hidden past turned him into an unlikely hero and changed his life forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this remind us that heroes come in the most unexpected forms. The Invisible Man. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Boone pushed his mop across the marble floors of Verdant Technologies' 30th floor lobby. It was 11:47 p.m., and the building was a ghost town just the way he liked it. No stairs, no small talk, just the rhythmic squeak of his rubber soles and the faint scent of lemon disinfectant. At 52, Marcus had spent the last 6 years as a night shift janitor in this glass and steel fortress of corporate ambition. He moved through the halls like a shadow, unseen and unremembered. The executives who breezed past him during the day didn't even glance his way. To them, he was part of the scenery, another fixture in the background of their high-stakes lives. But Marcus wasn't always invisible. Once he had been someone, a name whispered with respect in certain circles, a man who knew how to disappear into hostile territory and come back with what, or who, he was sent for. But that was a lifetime ago, before the ambush, before the blood on his hands, before the government thanked him for his service with a quiet discharge and a pension that barely covered rent. Now he just mopped floors. He paused near the executive elevators, rubbing at a stubborn coffee stain with the toe of his boot. That's when he heard them, two men in tailored suits, standing too close, speaking too low. Their accents were sharp, Eastern European. Midnight. The car will be waiting, the taller one muttered. The other checked his watch. No mistakes. Kovac doesn't tolerate them. Marcus kept his head down, but his ears open. He'd spent enough years in the field to recognize the cadence of a planned operation, the way these men stood, the tension in their shoulders. This wasn't a business deal. He glanced up just as the elevator door slid open, revealing Daniel Carter, Verdant's notoriously ruthless CEO. The two men straightened, their expressions smoothing into polite neutrality as Daniel strode past without acknowledging them, or Marcus. For a split second, Marcus considered walking away. He wasn't security. He wasn't even daytime staff. Whatever was happening, it wasn't his problem. But then he remembered the look on his team's faces that day in Syria, the way the dust had settled too quietly after the gunfire. He waited until the men dispersed, then pulled out his phone and dialed the front desk. Security, this is Reynolds. Hey, it's Marcus. Janitor on 30. You might want to check the east elevator lobby. Two guys acting sketchy near Carter's office. Reynolds sighed. You mean the guys in suits? Probably just investors. Relax, man. Stick to mopping. The line went dead. Marcus clenched his jaw. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe it was nothing. But at 11:58 p.m., as he emptied a trash bin near the stairwell, he heard the first gunshot. It was muffled, suppressed. Then came shouting. A struggle. Marcus dropped the bag and moved fast, slipping into the emergency stairwell. Through the narrow window in the door, he saw Daniel Carter being dragged toward the service elevator. A gun pressed his ribs. Two masked men flanked him. A third stood watch, scanning the hall. Marcus's pulse roared in his ears. He could call 911. He could run. Or he could do what he'd spent a decade trying to forget how to do. The van was idling in the loading dock when Marcus made it outside. He crouched behind a dumpster, watching as they shoved Daniel inside. The license plate was obscured with mud. No faces, no witnesses, except him. As the van peeled away, Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a battered flip phone. He hadn't used this number in 15 years. He wasn't even sure it would still work. But when the line connected after the first ring, the voice on the other end didn't sound surprised. Boone. Marcus exhaled. I need a favor. The rescue? The voice on the other end of the line was rough, weathered by years and bad decisions. You're supposed to be dead. Marcus kept his eyes on the taillights of the van, disappearing into the Boston night. Close enough, he muttered. I need a location. Black van, no plates, heading south on Atlantic. Mercenary types. They just grabbed Daniel Carter. A pause, then a sigh. You're really doing this? Already done, Marcus said, and hung up. 20 minutes later, his burner phone buzzed. A single text with an address. An abandoned meatpacking warehouse near the docks. No questions. No goodbyes. Just business. Marcus shoved the phone into his pocket and checked the duffel bag he'd pulled from the storage locker in his apartment. Inside, a tactical knife, a set of lockpicks, a compact 9mm with suppressor, and a photo of his old team, war at the edges, stained with coffee and time. He hesitated, then tucked the photo back under his mattress. Some ghost didn't need to be invited. The warehouse loomed against the pre-dawn sky, its broken windows like missing teeth. Marcus parked 3 blocks away and moved on foot, sticking to the shadows. The air smelled of salt and rust, the harbor's breath clinging to the decaying buildings. At the side entrance, a guard leaned against the wall, smoking. Amateur. Marcus waited until a man flicked his cigarette away, then closed the distance in 3 silent strides. A quick strike to carotid, and the guard slumped into his arms. Marcus lowered him gently, took his radio, and slipped inside. The interior was cavernous, the scent of old blood and ammonia still clinging to the walls despite years of disuse. Voices echoed from the far side of the building. Marcus moved like a shadow, pressing himself against support beams, listening. Won't sign shit until we get the transfer verified. A voice snapped. Daniel Carter. Alive. Defiant. A meaty slap, then a grunt of pain. You don't give orders here, CEO. Marcus edged closer. Through a gap in the crates, he saw Daniel on his knees, his tailored suit torn, one eye swelling shut. 3 armed men stood around him. A 4th, Kovac, judging by the way the others deferred to him, held a tablet, jabbing at the screen. Your AI prototype can turn commercial drones into weapons, Kovac said. My employer wants it. You're going to give it to us, or we start sending pieces of you back to your board. Daniel spat blood. Go to hell. Kovac sighed, nodding to one of his men. Break a finger. The thug grabbed Daniel's wrist, wrenching his pinky back. Marcus shot him in the thigh. The suppressor muffled the gunshot, but the man's scream didn't need amplification. Chaos erupted. Kovac ducked behind a crate, shouting orders in a language Marcus recognized, Serbian. Of course. Daniel rolled away as the 2 remaining guards opened fire, bullets chewing into the crates where Marcus had been standing. He was already moving. Flanking left. 1 guard spun, rifle raised, but Marcus was faster. 2 rounds to the chest. The man dropped. The 2nd guard panicked, spraying bullets wildly. 1 grazed Marcus's shoulder, burning like a hornet's sting. He gritted his teeth and returned fire, catching the man in the shoulder, sending him stumbling back. Kovac wasn't waiting around. He bolted for a side door, dragging Daniel with him. Marcus gave chase, but the wounded guard lunged, tackling him to ground. They rolled, fists and elbows flying. The guard was bigger, younger, fueled by adrenaline, but Marcus had spent 20 years learning how to turn a man's strength against him. A sharp twist, a snapped wrist, and the guard howled. Marcus drove his knee into the man's ribs, then his pistol into his temple. Silence. He scrambled up, sprinting for the door. Outside, Kovac had Daniel shoved into the back of a waiting sedan. The engine roared. Marcus raised his gun, exhaled, tires screeched. A black SUV skidded between him and the sedan, blocking the shot. Kovac's window rolled down just enough for a middle finger before the car peeled away. Marcus cursed, turning as the SUV's passenger door opened. "Get in," said the driver. He knew that voice. The man behind the wheel was older, his beard streaked with gray, but the scar cutting through his eyebrow was unmistakable. Hargrove, his old CO, the one who'd left him for dead. Marcus didn't move. "You're working with them?" Hargrove's jaw tightened. "I'm working against them. Now are you saving Carter or not?" Sirens wailed in the distance. The cops would be here in minutes. Marcus climbed in. The SUV lurched forward, Hargrove weaving through back alleys like he'd memorized every pothole. Kovacs heading for the docks, he said. He's got a boat waiting. Marcus pressed a hand to his bleeding shoulder. Why help me? Hargrove didn't look at him. Because you weren't the only one they betrayed. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken history. Then the radio crackled. Unit 7, approaching the warehouse. No sign of... Hargrove killed the transmission. We got 5 minutes before the city's crawling with cops. He tossed Marcus a fresh magazine. You ready to finish this? Marcus loaded the gun. Some ghost didn't stay buried. The truth unlocked. The SUV screeched to a halt near Pier 12, its tires kicking up gravel. Marcus shoved the door open before they'd fully stopped, his boots hitting the cracked asphalt with a thud. The docks were eerily quiet this hour. The only sounds a distant creak of moored ships and the slap of water against rotting pylons. Hargrove killed the engine but didn't move. Kovacs got a speedboat waiting at the end of the pier. Private channel, no tracking. He handed Marcus an earpiece. I'll jam their radios. You get Carter. Marcus hesitated. Why now, after all these years? Hargrove's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Because Kovacs' employer is the same bastard who sold out your team in Syria. The words hit Marcus like a gut punch. All these years, he blamed himself, blamed Hargrove for the ambush. But someone had planned it. Someone had wanted them dead. He didn't have time to process it. Somewhere in the maze of shipping containers ahead, Daniel Carter was running out of time. Marcus moved low and fast, using the containers as cover. The earpiece crackled. 2 guards at the pier entrance, Hargrove muttered. One smoking, the other's on his phone. Marcus spotted them. Same mercenary crew from the warehouse, relaxed now that they thought they were home free. The smoker never saw the knife coming. A quick slash to the thigh, a hand clamped over his mouth, and Marcus dragged him behind a crate. The second guard looked up his phone just in time to catch a silence round between the eyes. Up ahead, Kovacs' voice echoed off the metal containers. Think this is a negotiation? Sign the damn transfer. A thud, a groan. Daniel. Marcus edged closer, through a gap in the containers. He saw Kovacs standing over Daniel, who was slumped against a crate, his face a mess of blood and bruises. The tablet was shoved in his face. Last chance, Carter. Daniel spat red. Go to hell. Kovacs sighed, nodding to one of his men. Fine. Cut off his. Marcus shot the guard in the knee. The man screamed, collapsing. Kovacs spun, gun raised, but Marcus was already moving. 3 rapid shots. 2 guards down, the third diving for cover. Kovacs grabbed Daniel as a human shield, pressing his pistol to Daniel's temple. Drop it, Janitor, or I paint the docks with his brains. Marcus kept his gun trained on Kovacs' forehead. You really think his death stops this? The second he's gone, every intelligence agency on Earth tears apart your employer's life. A flicker of doubt in Kovacs' eyes. Daniel seized it, elbowing back hard into Kovacs' ribs. The gun went off, the shot whizzing past Marcus's ear as Daniel twisted free. Marcus fired. Kovacs staggered back, clutching his shoulder. But he was still standing, still smiling. You don't even know what you're fighting for, do you? He reached into his jacket. Marcus shot him again. Center mass. Kovacs crumpled, his hand falling away to reveal not a weapon, but a phone. The screen glowed with a single word. Transmitting. Hargrove's voice exploded in Marcus's earpiece. Shit. He just sent the data. Marcus, the boat. A roar of engines. Marcus turned just as the speedboat at the pier revved and shot away into the harbor, a lone figure at the wheel. The prototype was gone. Daniel sagged against a crate, breathing hard. Who the hell are you? Marcus didn't answer. He knelt beside Kovacs, who was gasping, drowning in his own blood. Who paid you? Marcus growled. Kovacs coughed, his lips red. You'll find out. His eyes glazed over. Sirens wailed in the distance. Hargrove's voice was tight. Cops incoming. You need to move. Now! Marcus hauled Daniel up. Can you run? Daniel stared at him, then at the bodies. What did they want with my tech? Marcus shoved him toward the shadows. Right now, we just need to survive. They vanished into the maze of containers as the first police cruiser skidded onto the pier. Somewhere out in the harbor, the speedboat disappeared into the fog, and Marcus knew this wasn't over. A new beginning. The safe house was a nondescript apartment above a laundromat in South Boston, the kind of place that smelled like detergent and stale coffee. Marcus tossed a first aid kit to Daniel, who winced as he pressed gauze to his split lip. "You're telling me those men kidnapped me over drone software?" Daniel muttered, his voice thick with disbelief. Marcus checked the window blinds before answering. "Not just software. A weapon. Your AI can turn commercial drones into precision-guided missiles. No serial numbers, no trail." Daniel paled. "I didn't design it for that." "Doesn't matter." Marcus peeled off his bloodied shirt, revealing the bullet graze on his shoulder. Someone out there wants it bad enough to kill for it, and now they have it. A knock at the door. Both men froze. Marcus drew his gun. Hargrove's voice came through the wood. "It's me." Marcus opened the door to find his old CO holding a duffel bag and a grim expression. "We got problems." He tossed the bag to Marcus. Inside, cash, passports, burner phones. Kovac's employer is a shell company called Vector Solutions. But the real money? It traces back to Nikolai Duchovny. Marcus's blood ran cold. Duchovny was an arms dealer, the same one who'd funded the warlord who ambushed his team in Syria. Daniel stood abruptly. "Wait, you're saying some Russian arms dealer just stole my life's work?" Hargrove lit a cigarette. "Worse, he's auctioning it. Bids close at midnight." Marcus's fingers tightened around the gun. This was his fault. If he'd been faster, Daniel's phone buzzed. A news alert. Verdant Technology CEO presumed dead after kidnapping. Beneath it, a photo of his empty office, splashed with fake blood. "They're covering their tracks," Hargrove said. "You're both ghosts now." Daniel sank onto the couch, running shaky hands through his hair. Then he looked up at Marcus. "You could walk away. You probably should." Marcus thought his team's faces. The ones he'd buried. The ones he'd failed. He picked up a burner phone. Not this time. 3 days later. The auction was held on a private yacht off the coast of Malta. Duchovny's buyers never saw the drone coming. Marcus watched from a stolen speedboat as the explosion lit up the night sky, the yacht's hull rupturing like a rotten fruit. Hargrove's voice crackled over the radio. "Data's fried. Your tech's gone, Carter." Daniel didn't look away from the flames. Good. 6 months later. The ribbon-cutting ceremony for Boone's Haven drew a bigger crowd than Marcus expected. Veterans. At-risk kids. Even a few cops who'd forgotten to ask too many questions about a certain dock shootout. Daniel handed Marcus a coffee, nodding at the teenagers sparring in the gym's ring. "You ever miss the quiet? The invisibility?" Marcus watched a scrawny kid land a perfect roundhouse kick. "Nah." Daniel pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Then you'll hate this." Inside, blueprints for a new security division at Verdant. Director of Special Projects embossed in gold. Marcus snorted. "You're persistent. Takes one to know one." Daniel clapped him on the shoulder as the crowd cheered. "Welcome back, Boone." The sun dipped below the city skyline, painting the gym's new sign in warm light. For the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel like a ghost. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Ever underestimated someone? Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that second chances exist. And sometimes they come with a roundhouse kick. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more real-life heroes.